YouTube, how you guys doing? Welcome back to week number 11 of Apple Weekly. Got a few very interesting stories and a few follow-ups from last week, so let's get started. The first story of this week is, and I reported last week that fights broke out at some of the retail stores in China for Apple. People were buying iPhone 4s and then selling them on at crazy prices. As of today, Friday the 8th of October, Apple has introduced some strict measures where you have to reserve a phone, so you can't just walk in and queue up and get a phone. You have to go online, put a reservation in, bring that reservation in store, one per person, so one iPhone per person, and also you have to have some sort of ID just to verify that you haven't purchased any before, or to just make sure you are doing it illegal stuff. So very interesting that Apple is indeed, tightening the grip on this ridiculous thing that people are doing. Second story is in relation to a US-based Apple retail store. Sojourner's Best from YouTube apparently stays close to the store. Don't know why I said that, but hey. Basically, the Apple Store, there's a Starbucks opposite this Apple Store. The Starbucks is now apparently moving to a different place in the centre. Apple seen this opportunity and said, hey, we're going to take over the Starbucks place and going to sort of make a check-in bar, a Wi-Fi lounge so people can come and sit down and have a coffee, whatever. Obviously, they're probably going to have some sort of link up with Starbucks, and it could possibly be used for training space. Now, if you know, when you go to a Genius Bar appointment, if you have something wrong with your iPhone or your iDevice, you have to check in first when you get to the store. So this space will be used for that. So even before you get into the store, you would check in, you would sit, presumably there'll be laptops and iPads, you can sort of browse the web and so on before you actually make it into your appointment. I'm surprised they didn't do this with the Covent Garden store, which is the world's biggest Apple store, because that kind of deserved this lounge. And definitely before going to the opening of the Covent Garden store, I thought there was going to be something similar, because they were saying this is going to be a unique store, it's the biggest store, kind of historic, and I thought they would probably introduce some sort of lounge-based system, but they didn't. But hey, this is welcoming because this could change the future of retail. The third story is in relation to the iPhone 4, and apparently Apple's engineering teams are in lockdown. The reason for that is because they're saying there's some fault with the glass on the iPhone 4, and I haven't seen it, I haven't heard about it until this rumour or the story came about. Apparently it's very quiet inside Apple, but all the main executives know about it, and they've got a team dedicated to working on this project. Of course, Apple haven't verified it. Basically, there's some third-party cases, presumably the in-case slider, and there's a case by spec which slides on to the iPhone 4. Now, I had the in-case slider for the iPhone 3GS, so I know what case that is. They also do an iPhone 4 version, so it slides on, and basically what they're saying is that causes dust to get trapped between the case and the glass, and then that causes some sort of friction, and that kind of smashes or cracks the glass inside, which could possibly be true, but I haven't seen that issue. I mean, that's the first time I'm reading that story. So if you maybe have come across that issue, if you have, leave a comment below, because it'd be very interesting. It'd be a big, massive fail, even bigger than AntennaGate, I would think, because that obviously means it hasn't had the extensive tests done on it. And despite what Apple have said, the glass is the best sort of solution for the iPhone 4. It's Gorilla Glass, and that's one of the main selling points of the phone itself in the first place. So if indeed this comes true, going to be very disappointing. Actor Tony Curtis passed away, and he was buried this week on Monday alongside his personal possessions. One of them happened to be an iPhone, which is a bit funny. Not a bit, but it is quite hilarious. Getting burying, and you've got your phone beside you, your iPhone beside you. He probably wasn't aware of it, and maybe he should have been made aware of this. You can't make FaceTime calls, especially in your grave. But it's just, I think it's a personal view. It's a sad thing that happened. He passed away, but it's taking this personal possession in your grave and so on. I think that's a bit ridiculous. But tell you what, when I go, I'm going to take my full 27-inch iMac with me. Take that, Tony. This next story is in relation to the iPad, and definitely, as you can see from that image, the second generation of the iPad is rumoured to have two dock connectors, one on landscape mode and one on portrait mode. Kind of makes sense if you guess, because not everyone has the iPad in portrait mode. I mean, I've got it on landscape there. You can have it in portrait mode if you want, and that makes the whole experience of charging your iPad better per se. While I'm on the topic of charging your iPad, Apple is also looking to implement the MagSafe that you get on the MacBooks, the MacBook Pros, so it makes charging easier. You don't have to physically stick it in, it just kind of It's a magnet, so it essentially just pulls it towards to the device and charges it. That would be pretty cool. I never thought about that for the iPad and even definitely the iPhone 4. I think that would be good. So if you happen to be charging your iPad or your mobile iPhone and you kind of trip over the wire, it's not really going to move your iPad per se because it's magnet, and that's one of the good selling points, or the thing that they boast about in the marketing for the MacBooks, at least anyway. So very good if they could implement that for the second generation iPad. The next story is kind of serious and funny at the same time, and it's in relation to patents. The tech industry is going through an insane amount of companies suing each other, and it's as such. Pretty much Apple suing Motorola, Motorola suing Apple, Apple's also suing HTC, HTC happens to be suing Nokia, and then Nokia seems to be suing HTC back, and then HTC seems to be suing Apple, Apple seems to be suing Kodak, and it's also being sued by Nokia, and it's just going through a vicious circle, as you can see from the screen. Point of the story is, they must be going through a hell lot of money at the moment trying to get the best lawyers. And when you're in this kind of industry, it's really kind of amazes you whether you really want to step into it, because you forget R&D. You're going to be spending a lot of money on legal or legality issues, technologies. Can you use this technology? Why can you? And so it just goes to make you wonder. The tech industry, you really do require a lot of capital. And I just find this funny to kind of put this into this Apple Weekly, because it was one of the stories this week. After Apple sued Nokia again, so it's just going to keep on going round, and the outcomes, and it's just becoming, I think it's getting ridiculous, to be honest. All these, even from Apple's point of view, I think it's just getting totally ridiculous. They should always come to an agreement, but let's see what happens in the next few months. Not going to happen in days, not going to happen in weeks. I'd be surprised if it happens in months, but I think it's going to take a few years until they get to court. And then something new is going to come out, someone else is going to sue that company, so it's just insanity. The new Apple TV 2010 cost Apple $64 US, giving them a 35% markup profit. You guys know the new Apple TV uses the A4 processor, and that happens to be the highest priced item in this Apple TV, which costs approximately $16.55, which is kind of cheap, but then again, the quantity they produce is insane. Also, this Apple TV 2010 is expected to sell 1 million units per quarter, which is insane for an Apple TV. I don't think they've never sold this much more than the previous Apple TVs. And definitely one of the things that made me get the Apple TV was the price. Forget about Apple TV itself. The price, £99. I thought that was quite reasonable. A few analysts phone around in shops and stores, retail stores, and asked about if they have them in stock. Most, if not all of them, were out of stock of the new Apple TV, so they are selling pretty well, which is a good sign. It's a good sign because that would give Apple more kind of buying power through broadcasters. More broadcasters want to sign out because so many people are buying it. So it gives Apple leverage to say, look to their to the clients, which are the broadcasters. Look, we're selling this amount. We've got a lot of people using the Apple TV, so hop on board and give us your rights and licenses to your channels. So interesting times ahead for Apple TV. Can't wait for the App Store and AirPlay to finally come on so I can put this bad boy up and hook it up to my Apple TV. This next story is in relation to the MacBook Airs, which hasn't been updated for a year, and as I say pretty much every week, it should be updated. It hasn't. This week more credible information has come out. Apple resellers have reported they are getting warning messages or messages on their system that stock is going to be delayed. In some cases it's pretty much out of stock, and previously when this has happened, Apple have either discontinued the line or they've refreshed it. So it's usually the latter. They refresh the line, so it's no point of sending out stock to resellers when there's a refresh due. They're not making any more of the current ones, they're making the new ones obviously. Also stores like Best Buy and Amazon are showing, Amazon I think has ran out of them. Best Buy is showing a delivery time of 5 to 7 days, or 1 to 2 weeks, which indicates stock is again limited. Of course, the MacBook Airs are still available through the Apple online store. For how long, that is the question. Also checked with Apple retail stores, and they can confirm that some stores were taking off super drives, which is an external CD or DVD-ROM drive for the MacBook Air. They were taking them off the shelves, and this was a few stores. So why they were doing that, it's a bit strange, because the super drives are also used with the Mac Mini server editions, which does not have a built-in or internal CD-ROM or DVD-ROM. So that was a bit strange. My store still has them in stock, which is the Glasgow store, of course. But you know, if you have seen them in your local store, if you haven't seen them, that can definitely indicate something is going on. And guys, definitely if you are in the market for any kind of Mac, wait. And the reason why I say this is because iWork and iLife are meant to get updated pretty soon. And if rumours are true, Amazon have leaked some books for iLife 2011, or the next version of iLife. And if you wait, then you would get this already pre-installed on your system. You'd have to buy iWork, but you'll get iLife pre-installed. Or sometimes in the past, if you have bought a Mac 30 days prior to this announcement of this new software, Apple give you a rebate on a disc. So they would send it out to you on a separate disc, or they would shove it in your box that same day. So if you can hold out, you never know, the MacBook Pros or the standard MacBooks might get a slight bump, or they might become cheaper or expensive in some cases. Apple sent out a notice to .Mac customers today saying that the service will cease from November the 8th, which is a Monday. So could that mean a new version of iLife coming on the 9th, which is a Tuesday? Historically, Apple do release stuff on a Monday and Tuesday, which would kind of fit in pretty nicely. So again, if you can wait, then wait. Is going to be my advice. iPad adaption within the politics world is growing. David Cameron has said he is a happy iPad and iMac user. He spoke to the Telegraph and he says, you know, he's got his iMac hooked up to his speakers, and he's pretty much praising Apple. As of recent, i.e. last 24 hours, the German Parliament has said they are going to replace papers with iPads. So now, not only is the iPad being used in, you know, high-profile restaurants, you know, premium sort of restaurants for menus or movie sets, it's now coming into the world of politics, and definitely shows to the extent, you know, how far or how good the iPad has been in terms of a product previous to its launch. People were like, yeah, you know, why would you want to buy this, or where does this fit in the market? It's going to shut up a lot of people, and definitely even before this, even if it didn't enter politics, which it has now, it's been a success for the numbers it sold. So you know, it's good to know that, you know, this is happening, and can't wait for revision 2. And just to end this video on a fun note, Steve Jobs up here was spotted wearing a suit which is not normal for the Jobs. He is known to be, you know, wearing a same black jumper, jeans, and then one of the AT&T executives have said that Steve Jobs outright said to him, "We're Apple, we don't wear suits." So I mean, it can be kind of, you know, argued whether that is a suit or not. It definitely does look like a blazer, and why I'm analysing someone, I do not know. But guys, that's it about for Apple Weekly 11. Apple Weekly 12 will be out next Friday. I'm trying to do this slot on a Friday instead of a Saturday. I think it kind of makes sense so you get time on the weekend to watch or go through this dribble of a video. But guys, yeah, thanks for watching. Remember iGlassRegion.com, twitter.com/i6glassregion, facebook.com/iGlassRegion, and if you could hit the subscribe button, that would be phenomenal, or anywhere on the screen, that would be great. And I'll see you next video. Cheers.